Well, hello, everyone, and welcome to Health Chats Among Friends. My name is Deidre Kindred. I'm a nurse advocate, educator, and navigator. And tonight on Health Chats, we got two great surprises. Number one is my co-host, and then number two is going to be our special guest that's returning. But before we get into that, I'm going to have my co-host say a little bit about herself.
Well, hello, everyone. I'm Sue Wallace, and I am a certified senior advisor, also known as an advocate or a senior assistant. And I do lots of different things. I bring personal assistance experience of 26 years into the mix. And then, so I haven't been asked too much through the years that I can't help people with, either myself or make sure they get to the right person. So I'm delighted to be here. Thank you for allowing me, Deidre, to be here, because this is your guest is one of my favorite people. So I'm in luck tonight.
Yes. So our special guest returning tonight is the ever wonderful David Dowd with AlevCare Hospice Care. Right? AlevCare Hospice. That's right.
Yes.
So thank you, David. So tell the audience a little bit about yourself and let's get to talking.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for having me, Deidre and Sue. It's such an honor to be on your show and to also have the opportunity to live out a significant piece of our mission. Our mission, one of the key tenets of our mission is that we do want to raise the awareness level about what hospice is and what it isn't. My name is David Dowd. I'm the owner of AlevCare Hospice. We're actually founded 5 years ago last week. So it's a big moment for us to know that the community has embraced us for the last 5 years and the relationships that we've created. And the welcome nature of this local community here in the what I like to call the Westoplex, Tarrant County and South and West. And it's been a pleasure. The name is AlevCare Hospice, like alleviating pain or alleviating discomfort and a variety of other things.
I love that. Okay. So that way I won't mess up the name again. So tonight, hospice gets such a bad rap, right, with everyone lots of times, unless people are educated on hospice. So just like you, David, our goal is to educate the community, and we're so happy to have you here, especially talking about hospice and some of the things that people assume when they hear the word hospice, and then also how to choose a hospice company. So let's dive right into it. I will say years ago, maybe 30 years ago, when my mom experienced her hospice journey, it was beautiful. And
wonderful.
It opened my eyes so much to so many different things about hospice that people just don't understand or know. So we thank you in advance for coming and talking to us tonight. So let's start off with, what are some of the things that may surprise people about hospice?
That may surprise people. Yeah, absolutely. One of the biggest feedbacks that we get, the number one feedback that we get is that people say we wish we would have called you sooner. And I think it's because people just don't understand what hospice is and what it isn't. And so today I'd love to talk about just some of the things that may be surprising to people that, heck, are in the industry, but definitely people that aren't in the healthcare industry. Because some of these things are just not what you might imagine with hospice. And it's important to know a little bit more so that you can make the decisions that are right for you or your loved one if that time arises. So I would start by saying that, really all hospices are supposed to do the same thing. We're supposed to provide the same levels of care. We're supposed to provide the same care. We are regulated by Medicare or Medicaid, And those rules as to what you're supposed to supply are very detailed. With that said, not all hospices are created equal. And it's important to know the kinds of questions that you should ask when you're choosing a hospice because of the way that they have decided to deliver care, or their philosophy on care or coverage, and response times. So, some of the things that may be surprising to somebody is that actually with hospice, if you choose hospice, the studies prove and show that you may actually live longer. There's one study that a lot of people point to that shows that you can live in an additional 29 days if you choose hospice. Now, 29 days may not sound like a lot, but those can be very meaningful days when you are able to visit with your relatives, visit with your loved ones, your friends, your family, in a way in which you're the most comfortable that you can be at that time, rather than being hooked up to something in a hospital that doesn't allow you the ability to communicate. So they're all choices, but I think that what the study would show is that not only do you live longer, but you live a more effective end of your life, where you're able to do some more things because you're focused on comfort care rather than curative therapies.
And you know what, David, I'm gonna jump in right there because that is so important. I cannot stress enough that working in the hospital, in the ICU, the beeps, the buzzes, the suction canisters, the call lights, the noises, it's not an environment that's really conducive for end of life, and even the staff, they're not equipped to be able to handle that either, because you're in the hospital, it's all about survival mode, right? You still got pokes and prods and people knocking on the door, and you hear loud voices in the hallway. It's really not an environment, no matter how hard I tried to make it a comforting place, it never was, in comparison to, I go back to my mom, what she experienced. Now, she chose to be in a hospice facility. It was awesome. And some people can choose to be at home. So I just wanted to add that because you're so restricted in the hospitals.
Yes. Yeah. So you're on your terms when you're at home or in a hospice facility. Choice and the patient and the family's choice is what dictates a lot of the plan of care.
Yeah. Can I just jump in, David, just for a second? Is that my mom was in the hospital. She was at Baylor at that time, and she was going to go to the hospice house of Baylor that was located within the hospital. However, they didn't have any room. And so they turned her hospital room into a hospice room. And it was such a pleasure to be able to see her, be able to say goodbye and things like that. And so we didn't have all the things that normally go on in a hospital. So, that's why it's so important that you choose the right hospice. So that they're going to provide that kind of care to your parents, or in my case, my mom. And so it was a really nice experience for all of us and her also. So anyway, just wanted to tell you that. So jump in.
Yeah, that's very sweet of you to share that, Sue. I appreciate that. Another thing that people aren't aware of is that hospice is a covered benefit. So not just with Medicare or Medicaid, but even with private insurances. So if you're not of Medicare age, your private insurance company probably has some kind of a hospice benefit included. But if you are of Medicare age and you have Medicare, it's 100% covered. So there is no cost to you or your loved ones. You have paid into Medicare your entire lives, and this is something that that you deserve. And understanding what's available to you is so critically important so that you can take advantage of it when and if the time arises. So again, 100% covered. And that covers medications that are related to your hospice diagnosis. That covers durable medical equipment like hospital beds or oxygen or wheelchairs. And it also covers supplies that can provide comfort. Things like incontinence supplies, wipes, gloves, all of those types of things, in addition to all of the things that are needed by the nursing team that's caring for you to care for any wounds that you may have. And that's something that we'll talk about here a little bit later, but having somebody that's certified in wound care. We will aggressively treat wounds. When you're on hospice, it's not giving up. We're still doing those things to keep you comfortable. And obviously a painful wound is not comforting. So you've got to find a hospice company that's going to aggressively treat those wounds.
Absolutely. I'm so glad you said wound certified, because not all nurses are created equal.
That's right.
All nurses know wounds. So, it's so important because that is a specialty field. So I'm glad you said that.
Yeah, absolutely. Another thing that people may not be aware of or that might be surprising is hospice isn't just for people with cancer. I know that we do care for a lot of people that do have a life-limiting illness like cancer, but end-stage heart disease, there are lung diseases, dementia, ALS, a lot of other neurological disorders, stroke. Really only about 35% of the patients that are covered under hospice have a cancer diagnosis. And people need to understand that there are other terminal diagnoses that can apply and make you appropriate for hospice care.
Absolutely.
A lot of people think that hospice care only occurs in a hospital or only occurs at a hospice house. But really the majority of patients and people in the United States prefer to see the end of their life at their home. And most hospice care does take place in a home. And that, by saying home, that's anywhere that you would call home. That could be a private residence, that could be an apartment, that could be any place that you call home, an assisted living facility, a nursing home, a residential care home.
David, I have a question, that sometimes I get quite often. So when someone decides to be on hospice, how does it work with the care as far as, do they get a caregiver 24/7 or for a certain number of hours? Is it individualized? How is that?
Yeah, absolutely. It's a great question, Deidre. And each patient's going to be different, and a plan of care is going to be developed for each patient. And then their needs are going to be identified. That some of their needs may be that they do need an aid. We're required by law to have an RN visit a patient at least once every 14 days. Now, then you've got to find which hospice is going to have a philosophy that they see their patients less, or well, not less frequently, but more frequently. Are they going to have LVNs that are going to make some of those nursing visits? And LVNs are fantastic nurses. But understanding that difference in who's going to be on your care team is important. You have a spiritual care coordinator as well. You've got, or a chaplain, you could refer to them as a chaplain. You might think of them as a military chaplain, where they're educated in all belief systems and they walk with you according to your own personal belief system. They're not there to convert you to one way of thinking or another. Mm-hmm. And you have a social worker that you can rely on to help you with some challenging decisions and questions. Maybe they're burial arrangement decisions or locations to have your loved one live and reside. Maybe you need to make a move from one type of a facility to another, or looking at veterans benefits. The social workers are typically very well versed on all of those things. And then your aides may come as infrequently as you know, you're declining them because you don't need an aide to help with bathing and those types of things. But then they could come twice a week or 3 times a week or 5 times a week, or maybe even every single day. It's all dictated by what the patient needs.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, a lot of people think that you're giving up, but when you choose hospice, but really what you're choosing is to stay in control. And yeah, and it's a very personal experience, and how you want the end of your life to look. And while they're tough decisions, you have the control when you choose hospice. So together we work with you to design what that care looks like, how it looks, in the manner that you choose on your own terms. But definitely it is not giving up.
No. You know what?
And it also, yeah.
I was gonna say, because I get that a lot, because people say, well, you want my father to give up? Or they'll say, I'm not giving up. And you are so right, and I'm gonna steal that from you, because it does put you in control. It puts you in control about your comfort level, because when you're at that stage in life, it's a hard decision. And then some of the myths come and try to creep into your brain. But really, it is a way for you to have your final say about what you want. If not, then the caregivers, they really don't know what to do. It's just like rolling the dice. And I hate to put it like that. Like, okay, what's next? You know, we don't know what to expect next. Whereas hospice, I can say from personal experience and professional experience, is all about that individualized plan of care, what that person wanted, how that person wanted it to be, who that person wanted to be. You know, it's just, you're in control. I love it. You're in control.
Yeah. Yeah. You're working with a team to create the best quality of life that you can have for the months and months and months, or the days or the weeks that you have left. You can also change your mind. And a lot of people don't realize that. You're not making necessarily a final decision when you choose hospice. If something changes in what you desire as far as treatment goes, you can change your mind and you can come off of hospice, and then you still have it available to you if there's another time where you're appropriate and it's a choice that you'd like to make. So it's not necessarily a decision that you make where it's definitely not a decision you make where you can't change your mind.
Yes.
And then a lot of people don't know. The last thing I would say is a lot of people don't know that hospice is for the entire family, and not just during the end of someone's life, but for at least 13 months following, with bereavement and grief counseling opportunities for the loved ones following a patient's death.
Now that I did not know. Because if I had known that, I would have took advantage of it, because you're so right. I mean, that is not just, oh, well, you know, goodbye and next, you know, type of situation. You deal with that almost for a lifetime. I think that year afterward is so crucial to get the right support.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. So we send out letters at certain points in time, and then we're constantly reaching out to those people that are bereaved, as long as they choose to continue to have those services. Again, choices is all yours.
I love it. I love it. And I'm so glad you brought up the topic about, because I had a client that came to us, and she was on hospice. She got off of hospice because she got better. And now, years later, she's thinking about, you know, going back on hospice, and she wasn't sure if she could get back, go back on hospice. Like, of course you can. So
Right.
that's so good to know. The topics that you have, tips that you've given us tonight are so valuable. So if we were choosing a hospice company, what do we look for?
Yeah, I know we kind of joked around a little bit about, not all hospices are created equal, or not all nurses are created equal. The same thing applies to people in the NFL. I mean, they're in the NFL, but they're not all created equal. I mean, our Dallas Cowboys are the best. So, Deidre, you might not agree with me there, but
I wouldn't know either way. So if you say they're the best, they're the best.
yeah. So there are different levels of ability, and it's important that you look at the intangibles, not just what a hospice company or a football player or a physician is expected to do, but what they're capable of doing, and what their philosophy may be on how they choose to do things. What I would recommend, first and foremost, is to get references, ask around, talk to clinicians, talk to a hospital, talk to your friends, your family, reach out to people. Maybe it's your church home. Talk to people and ask them about what their experiences are, or have been, or what they've heard. Google reviews are a great place. Go online, look at Google reviews, and don't just look at the star rating. Look at the comments. Look at the time that people take to make comments, and seek those things out. I think that's an important thing to do when you're choosing a hospice.
Oh, that is so true. I love when you said, don't just look at the star rating, because that's another topic for another show. Because,
Right.
when you're going home from the hospital, Medicare.gov, they have that list of, not necessarily hospice, but, other facilities, and they got these 5 stars, and so look at the testimonies. Look at the testimony.
Yeah.
Definitely ask your friends and other people. Oh, another thing that I like to do, David, is me personally, I grab a staff member. So, how do you like working here? Or how do you like working for this company? Because that culture is so important to look at. I'm just going to add my little 2 cents. Look at the culture. How are the staff treating one another?
I love that, Deidre. I think that's a great question, and I will recommend that to people going forward. That's a great idea. Yep. Another question might be to find out how long the hospice has been around. It could provide you with some indication of their stability. It doesn't necessarily mean that they're better if they've been around longer, but it can give you some indication on the success of their ability to deliver good care in a particular community.
That's true.
Something that I think is very important is asking about the location, not the location of the office, because in hospice, if you're getting care at home, where the office is really doesn't matter that much. What's important to ask about is, where do the nurses live that would be on our care team? What is their coverage area? How long will it take them to get to us? How easy is it for them to get to us quickly? And what does quickly mean to you versus what does quickly mean to the hospice agency? And ask those questions and make sure that you're comfortable with those answers. Location of the call team. So hospice offices are open typically from 8 o'clock in the morning to 5 o'clock in the evening, and then an on-call team will take over, and an on-call team will work on the weekends. Well, where do those on-call people live? What is their response time? What is your response time goal? That's a good question. Now, they can have goals, and then they're going to have reality. So what's reality? I understand your goal is to be somewhere within a very short period of time, but what's the reality? What's your actual response time on a typical call or in an urgent situation?
Love it. Love it. That's
Yeah.
important.
Really good comment right there.
Mhm. And certifications, all hospices are required to be certified by Medicare, but then all hospices also have the opportunity to be accredited at an even higher level with higher standards from an accreditation body. And the three accreditation bodies are JCO, CHAP, and ACHC, and they all bring a different variety of focus, but knowing if a hospice agency is only Medicare certified, which is completely fine, or if they hold themselves to a higher standard and choose to be accredited by not only Medicare, but also one of those three accreditation bodies.
Awesome.
You might want to discuss with them some of your specific needs and how they could accommodate any concerns that you might have. Maybe there are some language barriers in the home, or maybe there's somebody in the home that is younger. Maybe that's a child or a grandchild of somebody that's going to be on hospice, and what kind of counseling or services can that hospice company provide? Some hospices may have a child life specialist on their team. There aren't very many of those that would do that, but if you specifically have children in the home ages 4 to 22, you might want to seek out the specific services that some hospice company might have to help them in counseling them around what they're going to experience with their loved ones' end of life care.
Oh, wow, that's good. Okay.
Yeah. And, we spoke briefly about just what's their response time typically, but what's their response time at 3 o'clock in the morning on a Saturday night or an early Sunday morning? And would you be comfortable with that? What's their average response time? What do you do if a caregiver is just getting exhausted? And self-care is so important, because if you're not able to take care of yourself, how are you going to help to take care of a loved one? What opportunities are there for respite care? And where are those locations? And what kind of accommodations can that hospice company provide you? The hospice company will have a contract with a number of facilities that they can move your loved one to give you a break from the care, or to allow you to go do something. Say there's a family wedding and you would like to attend as the caregiver of somebody that's on hospice, but the person that's on hospice isn't able to make it to that event, and it's out of town or out of state. Well, the hospice facility or the hospice company can set up respite care at a facility that they have a contract with, so that you could go and enjoy that time knowing that your loved one is being cared for wonderfully in your absence. And then when you return, they get moved back to home so that you can care for them. But where are those facilities? What are the locations again? How far away is that from home? And what kind of ratings do those facilities have?
Oh, wow, that's good. Okay, and then also I would add the level of care, because everybody maybe, what is their training, for their level? Yes. That would be important. Okay, good stuff.
Yeah, see, being a nurse advocate, those are questions that are right up your alley. You know the questions to ask, Deidre.
And my heartstring is with caregivers, like it's always been, because you are so right. If they don't take care of themselves, they cannot take care of their loved one appropriately. And so that respite is just so critical in this equation as far as hospice goes. So I really like that you touched on that. So what areas do you cover, David?
We cover Tarrant County, and then just all of the surrounding edges of Tarrant County, and then also out into Parker, Johnson, and down to Ellis County. So really, it's kind of, if you think about it, it's Tarrant County and then west and south of Tarrant County.
Okay.
Okay. And if someone wanted to find out more about you and your wonderful services, because you have given such a plethora of information. I've learned a couple things tonight that I did not know. So
Good.
you learn something every day, right? So what is the best way for them to reach out to you to find out more information?
Well, I think the single best way would be to call us. Our phone number is 469-630-2538. And then also, if you don't recall that number and you want to look on our website, there's some really wonderful educational material on our website. And that is at AlēvCare.com, www.AlevCare.com. And just know that it's ALEV as in Victor, C as in cat, ARE.com. There is not an E in between the V and the C. It's just AlevCare. And yeah, those are the two best ways to reach out to us.
Awesome. Well, David, thank you again. I mean, this has been packed full of so much good information, and I appreciate your time.
So Deidre and Sue, you guys are such a joy to be around always, and we're so lucky in this community to have the two of you. And I really appreciate you allowing me to live out part of the mission of our hospice agency to raise awareness about what hospice is and what it isn't.
Absolutely.
That's some really good information. So appreciate it.
Yes. And thank you everyone for tuning in to Health Chats Among Friends, where we bring you reputable resources from our local communities. Tune in next time for another amazing resource and another amazing guest. Thank you.
Bye-bye.